Good morning, Year 2. This is our second guided reading lesson on the Frankenstein teacher. We're going to be reading Chapter 2 today. So if you haven't listened to the Chapter 1 video, make sure you do that first, otherwise this won't make any sense. So we're going to look at Chapter 2 of the Frankenstein teacher. Down at the foot of the spooky mountains, there was a little town. At the edge of that little town, there stood a little school. At the heart of that little school, there was a little classroom, and in that little classroom, something very, very little had escaped. Most of the children were laughing and cheering. A few of them were screaming and squealing. 2 of them were chasing and leaping, and right in the middle of all that sound and fury was Mrs. Shelley, the head. And she's saying, "Don't panic." Hannibal, the class hamster, had made a break for freedom, but now he was almost trapped. He ducked and dived, he weaved and bobbed, he scampered this way and that across the floor and jumped once more straight into the cage from where he'd started. "Thank goodness for that," said Mrs. Shelley, shutting the cage door with a ping. "I'd better speak to your new teacher about Hannibal," she said. "I don't want him causing as much chaos in this school as he did last term." "Who is our new teacher, miss?" asked one of the children. You'll soon find out," said Mrs. Shelley. "I think I hear him now." The children listened. There was a thud outside in the corridor, and then another, and another. Thud, thud. Somebody was heading steadily towards the classroom. Somebody with very heavy feet, it seemed. The floor shook. The tables and chairs shook. The children shook. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a huge figure loomed over them. It was the Frankenstein teacher. The class gasped and shook even more. Hannibal squeaked and fell off his exercise wheel. "Pay attention, please, everybody," said Mrs. Shelley. "This is your new teacher, Mr. Frankenstein, which makes you Class 3F, of course. Now, what do we say, Class 3F? We say, 'Good morning, Mr. Frankenstein.'" Mrs. Shelley waited, but Class 3F just sat there, shaking and silent. "Come along, children," said Mrs. Shelley. "Where are your manners?" Class 3F didn't say a word. They were totally stunned. "That's not a very nice welcome, Class 3F, said Mrs. Shelley crossly. "I hope you're just shy today." "Well, I'll leave them in your capable hands, Mr. Frankenstein," she said, turning to leave. "I'm sure everything will be fine." Mrs. Shelley couldn't have been more wrong if she'd tried. And that's Chapter 2. We're going to read Chapter 3 on Monday. Let's have a look then at the questions you're going to have to answer in just a moment. So, these are the reading comprehension questions in the Word document that comes with this homework. So, the first one, if you have a look at this first page in Chapter 2, the word little is repeated again and again. So, number 1 says, can you think of another word that means the same as little? That's a clarifying Connor question. He wants you to think of another word that means the same as little. For the next one, we're looking at this sentence here. A few of the children were screaming and squealing. What do you notice about the words screaming and squealing? You need to choose one of the options on the paper. The next question is an inferring Isabel question. You need to answer, why do you think this hamster is trying to escape? For the next one, it's asking you, what does the word chaos mean? Now again, that's a clarifying question because they're asking you to clarify what this word means here. I don't want Hannibal causing as much chaos in the school as he did last term. So what does the word chaos mean there? The next question, number 5, is about this part of the story where the children hear the Frankenstein teacher coming. The children listen. There was a thud outside in the corridor, then another, and another thud. So the question is, how do you think the children felt when they heard the Frankenstein teacher coming? Question number 6 asks, at the end of this chapter, Mrs. Shelley says everything will be fine, and the narrator says Mrs. Shelley couldn't have been more wrong if she tried. So we know that everything's not going to be fine. So we're asking you to predict, like predicting Peter, what might go wrong for poor Frankenstein teacher or for the children. And then finally, question 7 is a summarising Sally question. It wants you to summarise what I've just read to you. So chapter 2, can you summarise what happens in chapter 2? Remember, if you can't remember any of the answers, you can always go back and watch the video again and listen to chapter 2 again. And we'll read chapter 3 in the next lesson. Bye.